Hey guys, I'm Mr. Hark. And 3 weeks ago, a 78-year-old park ranger died, but not before uploading a confession video that's currently ripping through the skeptic community like wildfire. This isn't some blurry footage or campfire story. This is a decorated 40-year veteran with a journal full of dated entries, GPS coordinates, hair samples in his freezer, and medical logs documenting something that, according to him, is now dying in those mountains. He had nothing to gain and everything to lose by coming forward on his literal deathbed, which raises the one question no one can seem to answer. What would make a man who spent his entire career built on trust risk it all in his final days unless he was absolutely certain about what he'd been protecting? So before we dive in, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and keeps these stories coming. All right, let's begin. The video showed up on a random YouTube channel 2 weeks after Tom Bridger died. It wasn't posted by some Bigfoot hunter or conspiracy guy. It was uploaded by his daughter Karen, and the channel name was just her first and last name. No fancy graphics, no spooky music. Just a woman in her 50s sitting in what looked like a normal living room with cream-colored walls and family photos in the background. She looked tired. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying for days. The video title was simple: My Father's Confession. That was it. In the first 30 seconds, you see her hold up her phone into the camera. On that phone screen is another video, an old man in a hospital bed, thin white hair, oxygen tubes running under his nose. His hands shake as they grip a brown leather journal that looks like it's been dragged through 40 years of rain and mud. The spine is cracked. The edges are worn soft. Some pages have water stains. Others have what might be dirt or maybe dried blood. It's hard to tell through the phone screen recording of a recording, but you can see enough. The old man's voice is rough and quiet. You have to turn your volume all the way up to hear him clearly. My name is Thomas Bridger, he says. I was head ranger at Olympic National Forest in Washington State from 1979 to 2015. 36 years. I got medals. I got awards. People trusted me, and I lied to every single one of them. He stops to breathe. The oxygen machine hisses in the background. I didn't report what I found because I was protecting them. He continues. But I'm dying, and someone needs to know they're dying too. Karen pauses the video on her phone and looks at the camera. That's my dad, she says. He recorded that 6 months ago. He made me promise not to share it until after he passed. She wipes her eyes with the back of her hand. He died 3 weeks ago yesterday. Lung cancer. He was the most honest man I ever knew. He wouldn't lie about what time dinner was ready. So when he showed me this journal and told me what was in it, I didn't know what to think. She sets the phone down and picks up the journal. It's thick, maybe 3 inches of pages held together by a rubber band that looks ready to snap. The cover has a name written in faded black marker. T. Bridger. Official use only. She opens it carefully like the pages might fall apart. The camera zooms in close enough to see the handwriting. It's neat at first, small capital letters, dates in the margins. September 4th, 1979. Check North Trails, Bear Scat near mile marker 7, recommended sign updates. Normal ranger stuff, but then Karen flips forward. The handwriting gets messier. There are sketches now, rough drawings of footprints with measurements written next to them. 18 inches long, 6 inches wide, 5 toes. She flips again. More sketches. A side view of something tall and wide with long arms. A close-up of what might be a face. Heavy brow, deep-set eyes, no snout. She keeps flipping. Photos fall out. Actual printed photos from an old camera. They show massive nests made of branches woven together in trees, bent saplings forming archways. Stacked rocks and patterns that don't look natural. My dad tracked them for 40 years, Karen says. He called them the family unit. 3 adults, 2 younger ones. He has pages and pages of notes about where they moved, what they ate, how they acted around each other. He took hair samples. She reaches into a box next to her and pulls out small plastic bags with what looks like coarse dark hair inside. He kept these in our garage freezer. I thought they were from bears. She sets them down gently. He never submitted them anywhere. Never told anyone at the park. Just kept watching and writing it all down. She flips to a page marked with a torn piece of paper. This is the one that's making people lose their minds online, she says, Swatom. September 1983. Found the juvenile approximately 6 feet tall near the den site below Red Ridge. It has an infected wound on its left rear leg. The smell was strong. Rot and infection. It made a sound when it saw me. Not aggressive. It was asking. I don't know how I know that, but I know. It was asking for help. Karen looks up at the camera. My dad went back the next day with antibiotics from his own medicine cabinet. Protein bars, bottled water. He left them and backed away. He did that for 2 weeks straight until the creature was gone and the supplies stopped being taken. The video cuts back to Tom in the hospital bed. He's holding the journal open to a page, covered in his shaky handwriting. After that, they trusted me, he says. When hikers went missing, they'd lead me to them. 3 knocks on my station window meant danger nearby. They left me deer meat once after I helped with the infection. He coughs hard. His whole body shakes. They're not animals. They're not human either. They're something else, and we're killing them. Habitat loss, pollution, maybe disease. I found the big one, the juvenile I saved last year near the old spot. He was sick, breathing wrong, skin lesions. I think they're dying out, and I kept them secret for so long that now it might be too late. Karen's voice comes back. He gave me coordinates, exact GPS locations of where he last saw them. He made me promise to share this after he died. Not for hunters. He was very clear about that. For scientists, for people who might actually help. She holds up a piece of paper with numbers written on it. These are public now. Research teams are already planning trips. But it's been months since anyone reported seeing anything in that area. The comment section under her video exploded. Over 2 million views in the first week. Comments from people who never believed in Bigfoot saying things like, "This made me cry," or "If this is real, we failed them." Wildlife biologists started breaking down the journal entries. One said you can't fake 40 years of behavioral observations. This level of detail about movement patterns and seasonal habits, it's either real or it's the most elaborate hoax ever committed by someone with zero reason to lie. Former park rangers who worked with Tom came forward. He was by the book, one said. He'd report a broken trail sign. The fact that he hid this for decades means he believed it mattered more than his reputation. The hair samples are being tested now at 3 separate labs. Results aren't back yet, but the journal has been verified. The handwriting spans 4 decades. Weather patterns match official records. Incident reports line up with Tom's notes about when he falsified locations to keep hunters away. Everything checks out except the one thing that matters most. Were they real? And if they were, are they still out there? Or did Tom Bridger take the last proof of their existence to his grave because he loved them too much to risk what the world would do if it knew? The journal entry for September 12, 1983, starts like any other. Tom's handwriting is neat and small. The date is underlined twice. Investigated reports of livestock kills near Cascade Trail, mile marker 14. Farmer reported 3 cows dead over past week. Strange wounds, not consistent with a cougar or bear activity. He wrote that at his desk in the ranger station with coffee going cold and a white mug next to him. By the end of that day, everything he thought he knew about those woods would be broken apart and put back together wrong. Tom drove out alone that morning. The sky was gray and low. Rain had been falling for 3 days straight. Everything smelled like wet earth and rotting leaves. He parked at the trailhead and walked up toward where the farmer said he'd found the last cow. The ground was soft. His boots sunk in with every step. He was looking for tracks, bear tracks, cougar tracks, something that made sense. What he found instead were prints in the mud near a fallen log. They were huge, longer than his boot by at least 6 inches, maybe more. He crouched down and put his hand next to one. 5 toes, a heel, an arch. It looked almost human but wrong, too big, too deep. Whatever made it was heavy. He followed them. The prints led away from the trail into thick trees and underbrush. Branches hung low and dripped water on his neck. His radio crackled with static, but no voices. He was too far out. The tracks went up a slope, then down into a ravine. At the bottom was a rock face with a dark opening. Not a big cave, just a shallow overhang, maybe 8 feet deep and 6 feet high. the kind of spot where deer bed down in bad weather. The tracks led right to it. That's when the smell hit him. It stopped him dead, musky and thick like wet dog, but underneath that was something else. Something sour and wrong. Infection. Rot. The kind of smell you get from a wound that's gone bad. He covered his nose with his sleeve and took a step closer. Then he heard it. A low sound from inside the overhang. Not a growl, not a roar. A moan. Quiet and pained like something trying not to make noise but couldn't help it. Tom's hand went to the pistol on his hip. His heart was hammering. He pulled his flashlight from his belt and clicked it on. The beam cut through the dim space under the rock, and there it was, sitting against the back wall with its legs pulled up. A creature, maybe 6 feet tall, even sitting down, covered in dark brown hair that was matted and dirty. Its shoulders were wide, its arms were long, too long, and its left leg was stretched out in front of it. The thigh had a gash in it, deep and ugly. The skin around it was green and swollen. Pus leaked from the edges. The creature's head lifted when the light hit it. Tom saw its face, heavy brow, deep eyes, no snout, not like a bear, not like an ape. Something in between. And those eyes looked right at him. Not blank, not animal. They looked at him the way a person looks when they're asking for something they can't say out loud. Tom stumbled backward. His boot caught on a root and he almost went down. He caught himself on a tree and just stood there breathing hard. The creature didn't move, didn't charge, just sat there watching him with that horrible wound leaking on the ground. Tom turned and walked fast back the way he came. Not running, but close. His hands shook the whole drive back to the station. He didn't write anything in the journal that night. He went home to his little house near the park entrance. His wife asked him if he was okay. He said he was fine. She knew he was lying but didn't push. He didn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those eyes looking at him, asking. The next morning he went back. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. He packed a small bag, antibiotic pills left over from a surgery he had had the year before, protein bars from his desk drawer, 3 bottles of water, a clean cloth. He didn't know if any of it would help. He didn't even know if the thing would still be there. But he couldn't stop thinking about it sitting in the dark with that infection spreading, dying alone where no one would find it. The rain had stopped. The woods were quiet except for water dripping from branches. Tom walked the same path. The tracks were still there, but more washed out. When he got close to the overhang, he stopped and called out. His voice sounded small. "Hey," he said. "I'm not here to hurt you. I brought some things." He felt stupid talking to the trees, but he kept going. "I'm going to leave them and back away." "Okay." No answer, just that thick silence. He stepped into view of the opening. The creature was still there. It looked weaker. Its head was down. Its breathing was loud and wet. Tom set the bag down about 10 feet from the entrance. Then he backed up slowly, hands out where it could see them. He went back behind a tree and waited. For a long time, nothing happened. Then the creature moved, slow and careful. It pulled itself forward using its arms, dragged that bad leg behind it, reached the bag, looked inside. Its hand, and it was a hand, not a paw, pulled out a water bottle. It looked at the bottle for a second like it didn't understand. Then it bit the top off, plastic and all. Water spilled down its chin. It drank the rest in 3 long gulps. Tom went back every day for 2 weeks. He brought more supplies, more water, bandages it never used, food it sometimes took and sometimes didn't. He started talking while he was there. Quiet words about nothing important. The weather, the trails, his day. He didn't know if it understood, but it would tilt its head sometimes like it was listening. By day 5, the creature was sitting up straighter. By day 8, it was moving around a little. The wound still looked bad, but not as green, not leaking as much. On day 10, it made a sound back at him. Low and rumbling, not threatening, almost like it was trying to copy the rhythm of his voice. On day 12, Tom walked up the ravine with a bag of apples and more water. When he got to the overhang, it was empty. No creature. No supplies from the day before. Nothing. His stomach dropped. He thought maybe it had died somewhere deeper in the woods. Then he saw them. 3 stones stacked on top of each other, right where he always set the bag. Balanced perfect. Next to the stones was a deer haunch, fresh. The meat was clean. No hide or hair, just meat on bone placed carefully on a flat rock. Tom stood there, staring at it for a long time. Payment, gratitude, whatever you wanted to call it. The thing had left him a gift. He picked up the stones and put them in his pocket. He left the meat. When he came back the next day, the meat was gone and there were no more signs. The creature had moved on. But Tom never forgot those eyes and he never stopped looking. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe. I don't want you missing out on tomorrow's new Bigfoot story. Thanks for watching. The journal entries from the years after 1983 tell a different story than the one Tom told his bosses. On paper, in his official reports, he wrote about normal ranger things, trail conditions, weather patterns, bear sightings. But in his private journal, the one with the cracked leather cover, he was documenting something else entirely. A family. That's what he called them. The family unit. 3 adults, 2 younger ones. He gave them names in his head but never wrote them down. The big one, the juvenile he'd helped, he called the alpha. The others were just descriptions. The tall female, the older male, the 2 small ones. He learned their patterns over the years. In spring, they moved to higher ground where the berry bushes grew thick. In summer, they stayed near water sources, streams and small lakes where they could fish. In fall, they came down lower where the deer migrated through. Winter, they disappeared almost completely. He'd find their tracks sometimes, but never saw them. He figured they had deep dens somewhere he'd never found. They left signs for him, though. Stacked stones near his truck when he parked at certain trailheads. Broken branches arranged in X patterns. Once he found a circle of white rocks on his station porch. No idea what it meant, but he knew it was from them. In 1987, a logging crew working the north section had an accident. A tree fell wrong and crushed a man's leg. His crew got him stable, but he needed antibiotics and pain medicine before the helicopter could get there. Tom drove out with his first aid kit. When he got back to his truck after helping, there was a basket made of woven bark sitting on his hood. Inside were plants he didn't recognize, roots and leaves. He took them to a botanist friend in town without saying where he got them. The friend said some of them were medicinal, used by native tribes for infection and pain. Tom went back to that spot the next week and left a bag of rice and canned meat. It was gone the next day. The warning started in 1990. Tom was doing paperwork late one night at the ranger station. The building was small, just one room with a desk, a radio, and a cot in the corner for overnight shifts. It was past midnight. Dead quiet except for the wind outside. Then 3 knocks on the peak wall. Slow and spaced out. Knock, knock, knock. Tom stood up fast. His chair scraped loud on the floor. He grabbed his flashlight and went outside. The beams swept across trees and shadows. Nothing. But he smelled it. That musky, wild smell he'd learned to recognize. He stood there listening. From far off in the woods, he heard a low hoot, then another answering it from a different direction. He got in his truck and drove slow up the north trail with his headlights off. A mile up, he saw lights, flashlights moving through the treed and off trail. Poachers. He flipped his headlights on high and hit the siren. They scattered. He found their truck parked on a service road and wrote down the plates. After that, he knew. The 3 knocks meant danger. They were warning him. It happened again a few months later. 3 knocks in the middle of the night. This time when he went out, he found fresh tracks near the station. Huge prints in the mud, leading away toward the east trails. He followed them in his truck as far as he could, then went on foot. The tracks led him to a steep ravine. At the bottom, he heard a voice. A man yelling for help. A hiker had fallen and broken his ankle. Been there for hours. Tom got him out and radioed for help. The hiker asked how Tom found him. Tom said he heard him yelling. The hiker said he'd stopped yelling an hour before because his throat was raw. Tom didn't answer that. The second time they led him to someone was worse. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, wandered away from her family's campsite. Search teams had been looking for 2 days. Tom was part of the grid search. On the second night he heard it, that pattern of hoots he'd learned. 3 short, 1 long, 3 short, coming from the southwest section. He told his team he was checking that area. They said it had already been cleared. He went anyway. The hoots led him through thick brush to a hollow log. The little girl was inside, cold and scared, but alive. She said a big hairy man showed her where to hide, kept her warm, brought her berries. Tom carried her back. Everyone called him a hero. He felt like a liar. 1997 changed everything. Two men showed up at a lodge near the park. Big guys, expensive gear. They had equipment Tom had never seen before. Thermal scopes, night vision, trail cameras that could detect heat signatures. They asked questions about bear activity, about strange sounds. Tom's gut twisted. He knew what they were really hunting. He heard them later on his radio scanner. They used a private channel, but he found the frequency. Thermal signatures, one said. Too big to be bears, moving on two legs. We're close. They were tracking the family. Tom made a choice that night, a choice he knew was wrong, but couldn't stop himself from making. He started lying, real lies, on official documents. In reports, he said there were aggressive bears in the area where the men were searching. Rerouted patrols away from where he knew the family stayed. Called in false sightings miles away to pull attention. One night he drove out alone and dismantled the men's trail cameras, made it look like bears had knocked them down. Clawed them up. The men left frustrated after 3 weeks. Tom wrote in his journal that night, I became complicit. I lied on federal documents. I falsified wildlife reports. I destroyed private property. But I'd seen the juvenile grow up. I'd seen them grieve when the older female died in 2003. Found her body in a ravine. The others sat with her for 2 days, touching her face, making sounds like crying. You don't betray family. The last entry that matters is from 2019. Tom was old by then, 66, knees bad, back worse. He didn't go out into the deep woods much anymore. But something pulled him back to that original spot, the overhang where he'd first found the juvenile. It was spring, the air smelled like new growth and rain. He walked slow, his breathing was hard. When he got close, he heard it, a sound that made his blood go cold, wheezing, wet and wrong. He came around the rocks, and there he was. The alpha, fully grown now, had to be 8 feet tall, maybe more. Massive shoulders, gray in his hair. But he was sitting against the same rock wall where Tom had found him 36 years before, and he looked sick. His breathing rattled. His chest moved too fast. There were lesions on his arms and neck, raw patches where the hair had fallen out. The skin looked wrong, discolored. The alpha's eyes were dull. When he saw Tom, he made a soft sound, not aggressive, tired. Tom sat down on a rock about 10 feet away. His own breath was coming hard. They stayed like that for a while, not moving, just breathing. Finally, Tom spoke. I think you're dying, he said, his voice cracked. I think they're all dying. Fungal infection, maybe, like what killed the bats. White nose syndrome or habitat loss. Pollution in the water. I don't know. But I watched you for 40 years. I watched you grow up. I watched you protect your family. And now I'm watching you die. The alpha closed his eyes, his head leaned back against the stone. Tom sat there until the sun started going down. When he left, the alpha didn't open his eyes. Tom never saw him again. That was the last time he went to the woods. 6 months later, he was in a hospital bed with tubes in his nose and a journal in his hands telling his daughter to make it public. Because secrets don't matter when everyone you kept them for is already gone. Karen sits in that same living room with the cream-colored walls. 3 weeks have passed since her father died. She looks even more tired now. The video camera is still running. People keep asking me why he waited, she says. Why he kept this secret for so long and only told the truth when he was dying. She picks up the journal again, holds it like it weighs more than it should. He showed me everything 6 months ago, right after the diagnosis. Stage 4 lung cancer. They gave him maybe a year. He lasted 7 months. She opens to a page near the end. Her father's handwriting here is shaky. The letters slope down like his hand was too tired to hold the pen straight. I asked him why now, Karen says. Why after 40 years of silence? He told me he kept them secret to protect them. But if they're already dying, if they're already gone, then someone with actual resources needs to know. not hunters. He was very clear about that. Not people who want a trophy on their wall, but scientists, people who study diseases, people who might understand what's killing them and maybe find others somewhere else who can still be helped. She sets the journal down and picks up a folded piece of paper. These are the coordinates, she says, the exact GPS locations of the den sites, the feeding areas, the places my father tracked them for 4 decades. She unfolds the paper, her hands shake a little. He made me promise to share these after he died. He said it on camera. She plays the clip again. Tom's voice is barely a whisper now. The oxygen machine sounds louder than his words. Give them the coordinates, he says. Let someone who knows what they're doing go look. But if anyone goes there to hurt them, to shoot them, to take them as proof, I hope they get lost in those woods and never come out. He coughs, his whole body shakes with it. Karen's hand reaches out from off camera to steady him. They trusted me, Tom says. Don't make them regret it. The video cuts back to Karen. She wipes her eyes. He died 3 days after recording that, she says. Hospice nurse said he held on longer than they expected, like he was waiting to finish something. She looks directly at the camera. I posted the coordinates online the day after his funeral. That was 2 weeks ago. What happened next, I didn't expect. The screen shows screenshots of comments. Thousands of them. I've been a skeptic my whole life, but this broke me. Someone else wrote, I'm sitting here crying over creatures I didn't believe in yesterday. Another said, if this is real, we failed them and we don't deserve a second chance. Karen scrolls through more. Wildlife biologists started reaching out, she says. Real scientists from universities. They wanted to see the journal, so I let them. The video shows an older woman in glasses sitting at a desk. Text at the bottom says Dr. Patricia Chen, wildlife biologist, University of Washington. She's holding Tom's journal, open to a page covered in sketches and notes. This level of detail, she says, you cannot fake 40 years of ecological observation. The behavioral notes alone, migration patterns, feeding habits, social structures. She points to a sketch of a footprint with measurements written around it. These proportions match the Patterson-Gimlin footage from 1967. Exactly. Either this is the most elaborate hoax ever created by someone with zero motive to lie, or we're looking at documentation of a species we've refused to acknowledge. Another person appears on screen, an older man in a ranger uniform. Text says Marcus Webb, retired park ranger. I worked with Tom Bridger for 15 years, he says. The man was by the book. He'd write you up for not filing paperwork correctly. He reported every broken trail sign, every bear sighting, every piece of graffiti. The fact that he hid this for decades tells me he believed protecting them was more important than his entire career. His reputation? Everything. Marcus shakes his head. Tom didn't lie. Not about anything. So if he said they were real, they were real. Karen comes back on screen. The hair samples, she says. Remember I showed you these? She holds up the plastic bags with the dark, coarse hair inside. 3 different labs are testing them right now. Independent labs. No connection to each other. We're waiting on results. She sets them down carefully. But the journal itself has been verified. Handwriting analysis confirms the entries span 40 years. Same person writing over 4 decades. The weather patterns Tom recorded match official meteorological records. The incident reports, the trail closures, the search and rescues, everything lines up with Park Service documents. She pulls out more pages, sketches of the creatures. One shows a full-body side view. Another shows a close-up of a hand, 5 fingers, opposable thumb, heavy knuckles. These match the proportions of every credible Bigfoot sighting on record, Karen says. My father wasn't an artist. He was drawing what he saw. She shows a sketch of a face, deep-set eyes, heavy brow ridge, flat nose, no snout. It looks almost human, but not quite. Like something that split off from us a long time ago and went a different direction. The coordinates are public now, Karen says. Conservation groups are organizing an expedition. Not hunters, not trophy seekers. Scientists and wildlife experts who want to document and protect, not capture or kill. She looks tired but determined. They're going in next month, early spring when the snow melts. They're bringing equipment to test water sources for pollutants, to look for signs of disease. to search for evidence of what might have killed them. She opens the journal one more time. The last entry, her voice cracks when she reads it. This was written 2 days before he died. The handwriting is so shaky you can barely read it. To whoever finds them, if you find them, remember they chose trust once. Don't make them regret it. She closes the journal. That's it. That's the last thing he wrote. The comment section exploded after that video. Over 4 million views now. The hair sample results came back last week. All 3 labs confirmed the same thing. Unknown primate, not human, not any known ape species, not bear, not any animal in their databases. One lab said the cellular structure suggested something between human and gorilla, but distinct from both. They want more samples. There are no more samples, just those few strands kept in a freezer for 40 years by a man who couldn't let go. The expedition launches next month. They've got funding from 3 different wildlife conservation groups. They're bringing documentary crews, scientists, trackers. They'll spend 2 weeks in the areas Tom marked on his maps. But it's been 6 years since he last saw the alpha. 6 years since any confirmed sighting in that region. Most people think they're looking for bones now. Evidence of what was, not what is, but some people still hope. The comments keep coming. Someone wrote, what if there are others in different mountains, different forests? What if Tom's family wasn't the only one? Another person said, even if they're gone, we owe it to them to know what happened, to learn from it, to make sure if there are others somewhere we don't make the same mistakes. Karen posted one final video last week, just her sitting in that same room. She looks different now, lighter somehow. I think my father would be okay with this, she says. He was terrified of what people would do with the information, but he was more terrified of them dying alone with no one knowing they ever existed. She holds up a photo. It's old and faded. Shows Tom as a young man in his ranger uniform standing in front of the park entrance sign. Big smile, full of energy. That's who he was before, Karen says. Before the secret, I think keeping it ate at him every day for 40 years. She sets the photo down. But he did it anyway because he loved them. And maybe that's the whole story right there. Sometimes love means keeping quiet even when quiet kills you too. The case remains unsolved. The family unit hasn't been seen since 2019. The expedition leaves in 3 weeks. They may find nothing. They may find everything. Tom Bridger is gone. His journal is real. The hair samples are unexplained. And somewhere in the mountains of Washington state, beneath the gray skies and the towering trees, there might be bones in a cave. Or there might be nothing at all. Just the memory of something that trusted a man once and lived to regret it. Or maybe didn't regret it. Maybe that's the real question. Not whether they were real, but whether the 40 years of protection was worth the cost. Tom thought so, right up until his last breath. And maybe that's the only answer that matters.